I used to work for my dad when I was a teenager. He has a small, like a brincolina business, like he rents tables and chairs and stuff. So he used to take me with him when I was like 13, 14 to go work with him and lift the stuff and all the things. I did it for about a year and he never paid me. He never paid me. And he's like, this is your responsibility. This is your contribution to the household as, the child. And I'm like, all right, that's fine. But then my brother started working for him a year later and I stopped working for him. And my brother was getting paid. My brother was getting paid $100 a week. And I asked my dad, I'm like, Dad, how come he's getting paid and you never paid me? I asked you to pay me. And he's like, well, because he like lifts heavy stuff. Like you didn't really lift stuff. I'm like, yes, I did, Dad. I got up at 6 a.m. to like wipe the chairs, like do all this stuff. And he's like, no, you didn't. So he never paid me. He never paid me. And for years he paid my brother. So obviously that like machismo, I was exposed to it at a very young age and it very much affected how I'm sorry, Erika. Yeah, the only reason I'm not crying is because I'm Prozac'd out, girl. Otherwise, I would be a mess right now, too.
Welcome to the Chingona Revolution podcast, where we will bring out your inner badass Latina, overcome self-doubt, help you gain clarity, and pave your own path, all while leading with courage. I am your host, Latina coach and speaker, Erika Cruz. Welcome to this week's episode. We have a juicy interview in store for you today. It is emotional, informative, inspirational, and this individual is none other than my good friend, Giovanna, also known as Gigi Gonazález. Gigi and I met through TikTok, actually, before we had ever met in person. And Gigi creates the most incredible content. And she's just such a beautiful soul. And today is a special, special day for her. And I'm so honored to have her on the podcast. So let me tell you a little bit about Gigi, and then we'll get into the interview. So Gigi is a TikTok influencer, a financial educator, and author of Cultura and Cash. During the Great Resignation, she quit her 10-year corporate career to pursue her true passion, teaching financial literacy to young adults. Gigi teaches personal finance and career navigation for First Gen at various organizations and on her TikTok account, the First Gen Mentor. So make sure that you go and follow her. Gigi was named 40 Under 40 by the Hispanic Alliance for Career Enhancement, Latinx to Watch by Hispanic Executive Magazine, and Top 25 Creator by Fast Company. Side note, Gigi is also the reason that both Del Carmen and I ended up on the front page of the New York Times, because she is the one who gave the reporter my contact info, so we owe it to her. So not only has she been making an incredible name for herself, she's helping all of those around her as well. In Gigi's free time, she likes to catch up on her favorite reality TV shows and cuddle with her dog, Bailey. Let's get into this interview, which is so, so good. Giovanna, Gigi, welcome to Chingona Revolution podcast. I know that we've talked for, I want to say, it's almost a year that we've talked about having you on the show, and I really do feel like now is divine timing, because today is a very, very special day. But before we get into what that is, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you, friend. Oh my God, I miss your face. I'm so happy to see you. I see you doing all the things, and we're both busy bees, so I'm not surprised we hadn't had a chance to do this podcast, but I'm so glad we finally made the time. Thank you for having me on the show. I love this podcast.
Oh, thank you. And, we love your work. I'm saying we, like the community. You are really doing, like, you're living your purpose. And the beautiful thing about like your purpose, and as you know, like I used to talk a lot about purpose. That's what my group program was about before we rebranded to Courage. And the beautiful thing about purpose is like when you're living your purpose isn't just for you, it's also for others. And I feel like you embody that so beautifully. And I want to get into your story. I want to get into like how it was that we got here, but it is such a special day. Can you tell us what's happening today, or what has happened today?
You're so sweet. Today, my debut money book, Cultura and Cash, Lessons from the First Gen Mentor for Managing Finances and Cultural Expectations, is finally out in the world.
This is an act of love from Gigi for us. And I just want to take it back. Like, I really want to know tell us about little Gigi. Tell us about just like, how did you even get into money? What is your money story? How was it talked about in the home? And after you tell us a little bit about that, how did that influence the way that you engaged with money as an adult?
Oh my God. I'm actually just started my healing journey earlier this last year, and I've never tapped into my inner child. So before I would tap into my inner child, and I wasn't really tapping into her. But now when I get these questions, I really feel it. So I'm much more in tune with it, so I can give a very, very honest answer. So, the narrative I heard about money growing up was always, we don't have enough of it, so don't ask us for it. So, what did that look like? That always meant that if we were at the store and we wanted, like, I don't know, a little candy or a toy, no tenemos dinero. That was always the answer, right? Or if we had a class field trip to go, I don't know, an hour away to some event, then we were not able to get money to spend on the field trip. We would just get like $5 when like our other friends would get like, I don't know, 20, $30, $50 to spend. There was a scholastic school fair, which came, did it come once a month? Not once a month, maybe once a year, twice a year. I feel like it came twice a year. I don't know if people remember. But I was always excited because, they would send the catalogs ahead of time. And I'm like, oh, I want to get that and these stickers and these gel pens and all this stuff. And again, I'd ask and the answer was always no. So anytime I asked for money, I learned the answer was no. What I also witnessed was my family frequently leaning on each other when it came to emergencies. So if they had financial emergencies, they didn't have enough financial security for them to deal with it themselves. So that meant borrowing money or asking money from family or even friends. And this new part is a little harder for me to share because I'm very close with my dad. My dad's my biggest cheerleader, but I used to work for my dad when I was a teenager. He has a small, like a brincolina business, like he rents tables and chairs and stuff. So he used to take me with him when I was like 13, 14 to go work with him and lift the stuff and all the things. I did it for about a year and he never paid me. He never paid me. And he's like, this is your responsibility. This is your contribution to the household as, the child. And I'm like, all right, that's fine. But then my brother started working for him a year later and I stopped working for him. And my brother was getting paid. My brother was getting paid $100 a week. And I asked my dad, I'm like, Dad, how come he's getting paid and you never paid me? I asked you to pay me. And he's like, well, because he like lifts heavy stuff. Like you didn't really lift stuff. I'm like, yes, I did, Dad. I got up at 6 a.m. to like wipe the chairs, like do all this stuff. And he's like, no, you didn't. So he never paid me. He never paid me. And for years he paid my brother. So obviously that like machismo, I was exposed to it at a very young age and it very much affected how I'm sorry, Erika. Yeah, the only reason I'm not crying is because I'm Prozac'd out, girl. Otherwise, I would be a mess right now too.
If you're not
Prozac
watching the
is
video
Prozac.
of this, I'm already like, I'm tearing up because I relate to you so much. And I'm so sorry that happened to little Gigi. I'm so sorry. And like, I had
Yeah.
so many similar experiences where like my brother just had different treatment than I did. And it pisses me off to this day. And it's why we do the work we do now.
Mm-hmm. And we tell our people, do not take this shit, right? Because we had to deal with it and we don't want them to deal with it. So
Exactly.
yeah, I don't know that I've particularly shared this story on social media yet, but because I've been focused on the book and everything, but it's one that's coming because women need to hear this message, especially Latinas. But yes, I mean, all these experiences definitely affected how I interacted with money as an adult. It definitely led to a scarcity mindset because again, I was always told there wasn't enough money. So there was definitely a lot of unlearning I had to do there to adopt a mindset of abundance, which is critical as an entrepreneur, which is what I do now working for myself. You will not be a successful entrepreneur if you still have those money wounds where you have that scarcity mindset. So anybody here that is an entrepreneur, please work on your mindset because it's so important. But yeah, with this scarcity mindset, the feeling was like, well, money's always supposed to be hard. Money will always be a challenge. I will always live paycheck to paycheck because that was my normal. That's what I saw growing up. So when I would get offers for my corporate jobs, I wouldn't negotiate because first of all, I didn't know I was even allowed to. If anything, I was told, to just be grateful and not rock the boat and, have them take the offer away. And I've even actually been actively discouraged from negotiating. Now that I'm older and I know you're supposed to negotiate, I will share with my family and they're like, well, isn't what they're offering good enough? Or aren't you happy with, so again, it's them because they had more limited options where they literally didn't have jobs where they could negotiate. And I learned that from my dad. And it's a very sad story that I did share on socials. So I have compassion. I have compassion for my family, but it's like very like misinformed advice for them to tell me that. So yeah, I eventually realized that I did not want to financially struggle like my family had. And I realized that because of, them making the move to the States to give us a better life, like I wanted to honor that and live that better life and not continue the paycheck to paycheck cycle. So I did a lot of work. I read a bunch of books. I had to break a lot of toxic money cycles, adopt different money mindsets. I had to learn how to live frugally, drive an older car, set financial boundaries, a lot of things that my family had never done before to finally build financial security for myself.
Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for being vulnerable, because so many people, I think, like, girl, if you make me cry on the other side of the screen, imagine all the people listening that just like relate to both of that, to both of our stories about, being treated differently because we're female in Mexican homes or just like Latino homes. So, okay. You talked about reading books and things like that. I'm wondering, how did you become passionate about personal finance? Was there like a talk you saw? Where was the wake up call to get you to like really become involved in your own, taking ownership of your own financial journey? And yeah, tell me that first, and then I have a follow-up question.
Yeah. So the interest in personal finance very much came from me being sick and tired of struggling with money, because I felt like a lot of my 20s were hard. I think like a lot of people, because you're starting life with limited support from family on an entry level salary. You don't know how you're supposed to navigate corporate politics. It's just a lot for a first gen professional. So I struggled a lot financially in my 20s. My 20s were very, very unstable. Even though I was making more money than both my parents ever had. My mom works in retail. Again, my dad has this little brincolina business. It's literally a one man shop. It's just him. I still wasn't doing well with money, and I'm like, how is this possible? Because I'm making more money than they are. I went to college, and that was the whole point, to make more money and have a softer life, but I'm still struggling. And that's when I learned, oh, it's because I am not managing my money well. And the challenges that I had is, I had like workplace burnout where I had to keep working because I didn't feel that I could say no to my boss, because I was scared that I would lose my job, and I didn't have any savings because I didn't know how to build savings. Or having to stay with a boyfriend that was verbally abusive, and again, not having the savings to move out and have an apartment of my own. So having to stick around longer than I should have. Or living with a nightmare Craigslist roommate who had like substance abuse issues, and I was worried that she was going to like stab my dog in the middle of the night. Like it was, yeah, it was just a lot of ups and downs in my 20s, a lot of bad situations that I couldn't escape, and they always led to money. It was always like, if I had savings, if I had more financial security, I wouldn't have to struggle this much. And that definitely affected my mental health and gave me financial anxiety. So it definitely got to a point where I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Oh, it's because I'm not managing my money well. Let's learn. So that's what very much sparked the passion and the way that I taught myself financial literacy. I self taught by reading over 50 personal finance books. I rented books, or I checked out books from the library. I bought books
Mhm.
online. Once I started, I just couldn't stop. I'm like, I want to master this.
I have a
And I
question.
got to, yeah, go ahead.
Were any of those books written
Oh
by
my God.
somebody who looked like us for us?
I know. I knew you were going to ask that. I'm trying to think of one. There was one. Yeah, there was one at the time, but it was towards the end of my money journey. By that point, I had already mastered it, and it was "We Should All Be Millionaires" by Rachel Rogers.
Okay.
The rest were mostly white males, some white women, Jean Chatzky, Susie Orman. But yeah, if I had to put a number on it, I'd say 95% white for sure.
Wow. Okay. So as
Yeah.
humans, I'm sorry, was there anything else you wanted to mention about the books?
Oh, well,
before
I
I.
just wanted to share, yeah, that when I self-taught myself financial literacy, I was like, okay, well, I know it and now I have a plan and now I know what I'm going to do. But I also had this feeling of like, this is so unfair that some people get access to this information because their parents are able to teach it to them. And like my parents were in survival mode and they were brand new to a country and like they already had a lot on their plate trying to learn a new language, like dealing with racism in the workplace, like all being away from family, right? Like, why would my parents teach me how the financial system works in the US when they have no knowledge of it themselves, right? So I thought to myself, this is so unfair that not everybody gets access to this information, especially when money affects us all, right? It
Yes,
affects what kind of health insurance we have access to, where we
totally.
live, what kind of groceries we can buy, everything. So I looked into ways to share my knowledge, my newfound knowledge, with my community. I literally Googled like how to teach financial literacy to others, and I came across a nonprofit called the YWCA, and I volunteered there for almost 2 years as a volunteer financial educator.
That's amazing. And this is all before creating content.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. We're going to get into the content in just a second. So, wow, that's amazing. Okay, so as humans, we have this basic need to like feel seen, heard, and validated. Credit to my therapist because like she's the one that always like tells me this, right? So, and our community has felt unseen in the financial space until like recent years, right? With like the work you're doing and a bunch of other amazing women. Why is it important for us to feel seen, specifically with like in the financial space?
Oh yeah, yeah. Do you hear the big sigh I took? It's so important because from my personal experience, when I only saw white people talking about money, and we touched on this earlier, right? When you asked me how many of those books were people that look like us. And I don't know if I mentioned Rachel Rogers, she's biracial. She's half white, half black. So that's still not a Latina. We have a lot of shared similar struggles, but they're not identical, right? But it was still better than the white advice I was getting from all the other authors. But yeah, I know from personal experience that when I only saw white people talking about money, whether it was Susie Orman on her TV show or Dave Ramsey on bookshelves, that signaled to me that financial literacy, financial security was not for me because those people didn't look like me. So it felt like it was something only white people do, and they weren't talking about issues that affected the Latino community. So it was just really felt very foreign to me, which meant that for a long time, for most of my 20s, I didn't bother to learn. So what that looked like is I got myself into credit card debt. I was very passive with my student loan debt. I didn't prioritize investing. I had no savings because, again, I didn't know it was important. And I kept that paycheck to paycheck cycle, even though I had a pretty decent salary. I had a median salary of $60,000. So that's why I love the phrase, you need to see it to be it. Credit to whoever came up with that phrase. That is not my phrase. But that's why I'm so proud of myself and all these other amazing women of color that I've met through social media that are taking up space and showing up publicly to normalize money conversations within our community, because that's the only way that we become engaged. Like when you see a curly hair Latina talking about money and how 401ks are important, you're like, oh, maybe I should listen, and I'm so proud to be able to do that for my community.
Beautiful. And so I feel like we've already talked about this around this, but you and I have talked about this and I've seen it as well on the website for your book about how the first gen starting line is different than that of our peers.
Yeah.
So tell us what you mean by that.
Yeah. So that's actually a whole chapter of the book, and that's actually the first chapter. But basically the cliff notes of that is it's very important for Latine, Latinos, first gen Latinas, whatever you want to call us, right? Whatever you identify with, to understand that our money experience is very different than our peers. And the reason it's important is because we're behind in the race to financial security compared to others. And I hope that by unveiling that, you are then motivated to get with the program and catch up, because we can catch up, but you have to be intentional. And the way that I expose that we have, a different starting line, I actually do it through three archetypes. One's called privileged Patty. The other one is called average. You're going to love it. Average Amy. And the last one is called first gen Gina. So you'll basically see the money experiences of those three characters, and you'll learn how money growing up, or money in their college experience, or even money as adults is very different than ours. And what that looks like is, we didn't get the financial education that a lot of these other people got the privilege of receiving at an early age. Again, because our parents lived in survival mode, and maybe their family is a little bit more established and entrenched in the US financial system. So they're able to talk to their kids about, well, this is what a checking account is. Oh, you got a new job? Make sure to sign up for your 401k, right? All these important discussions. In addition to that, we also do not receive generational wealth like a lot of these people. I thought that only the one percenters were the ones that receive generational wealth, but I've learned that even the typical white middle class American receives some sort of inheritance or support in paying for college. And that's a huge leg up in life, because the rest of us have to get it ourselves into debt to achieve all these milestones. So we're
Yeah.
already behind, like I said. And then I was gonna say, para acabarla de chingar, we also have additional increased family obligations that these
Yeah.
other families don't do. Privileged Patty and the average Amy's, their family supports them with money for the down payment for their first home, or they help them pay for their wedding. And or if somebody passes away, old grandma Gertrude passes away, they get an inheritance of 10K. We're like, for us, like, bitch, what inheritance? Like, when my grandmother, who I love dearly, when she passes away one day, like, I'm not going to get 10K. I'm not going to get anything. If anything, we're going to be heartbroken because we lost the matriarch in our family.
Mhm.
And we're also going to be expected to pitch in for the burial costs.
Yeah.
So it's just a very different experience, and it needs to be acknowledged, because again, when we understand that we have unique money struggles, we're more proactive about our money journey.
Yes. I love the archetypes. As soon as you started describing those, I got chills like all over my body. I had this physical reaction, and I think it's because it wasn't until like shortly after the pandemic that I really started to take investing a little bit more serious, and I started to really look at my own financial journey. And the more that I get into it, the more I'm like, oh man, like if I ever have children, like these kids are going to be set, right? Like just think
Good.
about
I love it.
yeah, the generations that are going to come after us with
Yeah.
like, I think you have like nieces and nephews, or just
I do. Yeah.
yeah, just like the education that they get to learn from you, right? And like I have
Yeah.
nieces and nephews as well, and just like I was creating a solo 401k because then my business can contribute, and then I can contribute as an individual, and I had to do
Yep.
the beneficiaries, so I put my niece and nephew on there, and I'm like, these kids are going to be set.
Oh.
And it's just so
Yeah,
as
the
you were
rich
talking
tias
about
taking
like
care of them. I love it.
so the archetypes are so perfect because you're right. Like not only is there like the inheritance and the generational wealth, but like the education and just the knowledge of knowing how to manage
Yeah.
the money. So how does your
Yeah.
book, Cultura and Cash, support our community in taking charge of our financial journey? And one of my favorite like phrases on your site is that, it's like without the jargon. Amiga, I hope you're enjoying the show. We are going to get right back to today's episode, but I just had to drop in and check with you. How are you feeling? How are things going? If you find yourself frustrated or maybe shaming yourself because you have not taken the action that you wanted to take, maybe you are just tired of starting and stopping or overthinking or worrying about what your coworkers are going to think about you or your family members are going to think about you if you finally start that project that you've been wanting to start. I just want you to know that I see you. I feel you. I overthought starting my Instagram page for 2 years before I actually started it. So I get it. I totally understand. And if you find yourself in this position where you know that you want to make 2024 your year and you're ready to stop procrastinating and start taking action, then I invite you to Courage Driven Latina. Courage Driven Latina is my signature program where you will legit change your life in 90 days because we are going to help you take action on a courage project in 90 days. I also recently introduced the Courage Project paths, which I'm so excited about. So you essentially get to pick the path that you want to work on, and you can work on more than one path because the program is now 12 months, right? But we recommend one path at a time. And I'm so excited about these paths because we have a confidence courage project path. So if you want to speak up in your relationships or maybe speak up at work, this would be the perfect path for you. Or if you just want to establish more self-trust. The second path we have is the content creation courage project path. So this is perfect for you if you want to create an Instagram page, a TikTok account, or perhaps you are ready to launch your own podcast. We even have a whole podcast course inside of Courage Driven Latina. The third path is the career courage project path. So if you know that you want to be at the director level or the VP level, or maybe you're ready to change your job to a different job, then this would be the perfect path for you. Maybe you're like, you know what, entrepreneurship is cool, but it's not really for me. I really want to be a boss ass mommy. Then this is going to be the path for you. And last but not least, we have the Chingona CEO path. So if you know that you want to be an entrepreneur and you know you want to start your business, whether it's a coaching business or a physical business, if you want to sell a product, then this is the perfect path for you. Again, because this program is now 12 months, you can work on more than one path. We are so excited about this updated program, and now is the perfect time to join. So get ready because the doors are going to open on February 12th. Mark your calendar, but more importantly, join the waitlist for Courage Driven Latina by going to the link down below in the show notes, because when you join the waitlist, you are going to be the first to know when we open doors, and you may even get some early access. So ensure that you join the waitlist. I cannot wait to work with you. We have some incredible women in this program, and the fact that it's now a year long, we've already seen so much transformation. I can't wait to work with you. Let's get back to the show, and don't forget to join the waitlist.
Yeah. I take a lot of pride in sharing financial knowledge without sounding like a finance bro. And, people may not know this about me, but I am a finance bro. I worked in investment management for 7.5 years. I have a certification in investment performance measurement. So I had to learn all these technical terms for my career. But I know that using that language with our community is very intimidating and can sometimes make people feel small, and they're
Right.
like, oh, I don't get it, so it must not be for me. So I take the time to translate these very difficult terms into something more accessible that feels easier for people to understand. And that was a big focus throughout the entire book as I was writing it. And I would catch myself doing the technical hard terms, and I'm like, nope, rephrase it. Try to think of like a metaphor or something. And it's hard. It's definitely a skill, and not everybody can do it. And I 100% believe it's a way to gatekeep information from people that
Mm-hmm.
need it. These people that use the jargon, they're trying to like flex something. Oh, I know these terms. I know those
Right.
terms too, but I don't have to use them to explain and help you understand money. So yeah, so the way that my book supports our community is, again, instead of all these other white authors that go straight into the ABCs of how to budget, how to build credit, all these things. The first two chapters are very much dedicated to our cultura and our experience, because again, you need to acknowledge and understand that it's different. Once we've accomplished that, then I can tell you the ABCs. So again, the first chapter is understanding that we do have a different starting line through those three archetypes. Second chapter is called How Our Cultura Affects Our Money Experience. And oof, that one is a hard one. It was a hard one to write. And all my beta readers, people that got access to the book before, they said that one hit hard, because there's no other book in existence that I've read, at least, that talks about some of these issues, of some of these toxic money habits that are so normal in the Latina
Mm-hmm.
community, but that really hold us back in our financial journey. So I do very much a deep dive into that. And then once I've done that, then I go into more practical and actionable money tips. And I'm like, well, how do you teach money in a book? Because you really can't teach all the things in one
Right.
book. Like, it took me 50 books, so I knew
Yeah.
it wouldn't just be one book. So I said, how can I make an impact? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to focus on the first Gen 5 is what I created for my framework. And these 5 uh, pillars in financial education are the ones that if you focus on as a first gen Latina, they will make the biggest difference in building financial security. Real estate, crypto, all of this stuff, you can learn it later. But the first Gen 5 are very easy. They teach you how to build savings, how to pay off debt, how to build credit, how to invest. And I always forget the fifth one. Jesus Christ. You have to read the book, but there's 5: investing, credit, budgeting. Did I already say debt?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, not
There's
in
a
this
fifth one.
list, but initially you did.
Yeah. So there's 5. Again, I'm sorry, I forgot. I should definitely should memorize them. But basically, I teach you the basics of those so that you can build a strong, solid financial foundation. And the reason that these first
Amazing.
Gen 5 are helpful is because they take care of past you. So, for example, past you is debt, and then future you is investing, having saving, and then having savings is current you. So if something happens to you right now, you need savings right now. You need an emergency fund right now. So it's a holistic approach to money, which I'm very, very proud of.
I cannot wait. So I just got the book, so I cannot freaking wait, or else I would have told you
Yeah.
what the fifth one was. So one of the quick things I want to mention is that you know, as we're talking about like a jargon-free book, you do such a good job in your content already in breaking things down and making it simple. And that's why like your page is totally blown up. So I cannot wait to read the actual book because like if you do such a good job in your content, I like this book is going to change so many lives. Like I just want to take a moment to acknowledge like this all started off as just an idea, right? And you have received a grant from TikTok to write this book. And now like you have the freaking book out today. Like have you ever thought to sit like the people who are reading this book now, it's not even just changing their lives, it's changing the trajectory of the generations that come after them. That is massive, Gigi.
I know. And I say that throughout the book to keep the reader motivated. Like by you implementing these steps, not only are you helping yourself, but future generations and also past generations. Like
Yeah.
if you want to support your aging parents or
Mhm.
siblings, right? So it's not just about you. You know, we're very communal. So yeah, I know that our people are very interested in being trailblazers. We've been trailblazers on everything else, you know, so we got to be
For
trailblazers with our money too.
exactly, exactly. So you just shared with us that you were working in finance, and I know that you quit your corporate job to be a full-time content creator. I think were you still whenever we virtually met because we met through TikTok. Were you
Yeah,
still working? Had you quit yet?
I had quit.
Okay. So was it the finance job? That was the job you left, right?
Yeah, in investment management.
Okay. So you left that job to be a full-time content creator. Can you tell us about the moment you made that decision? And I'm sure it was accumulation of a lot of different things, but like how did you have the courage to leave a corporate job to become a full-time content creator?
I was kind of forced to quit because of the kind of job that I have in investment management, which is a very regulated industry. You have to get written approval for any outside compensation outside of your 9 to 5 with them. So I submitted a request saying that I wanted to teach financial literacy classes in my community. And it was immediately denied. It said it was a legal and a reputational risk. So I was not approved to do that kind of work. Yeah, girl. And, you know, my initial reaction was like, okay, I guess this is where this TikTok thing ends. And I'm so freaking thankful that I had friends, family, even my spouse that were like, hold on, Giovanna. Like, I think there's something here. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what? I'm like, because I actually really like my job. So for me, I wasn't about to quit my job because I like my job. I liked my day to day. I like my boss. I finally had like a good boss and a good work culture. Through my 20s, I really struggled with my career. So I was finally at a workplace where I felt good about my career.
Yeah.
So it wasn't an easy decision, but thank God that I had friends that literally pulled me by the ear
Oh
and
my
were like, no
gosh.
seas tonta. Yeah, they were like, no seas tonta. You've always played it safe. This is the first time that you are financially secure. They're like, you have savings, right? And I'm like, yes. And then like, if you have savings, you can take a risk. And if it doesn't work, go back to your old job, you know?
Yeah.
So it was a very hard decision because like I said, it's easy when you hate your job and you have a toxic
Totally.
boss. yeah, you're like, screw it, I'm out of here, I'm going to build my own business. But when you actually like what you do, it's harder. But I also had the privilege of having savings. And I don't know that I should call it privilege, because I've been, doing a lot of work to build savings. I moved from very expensive Southern California to Phoenix to save money. I was living very frugally, clipping coupons. So it took a lot of work and dedication to build those savings to be able to take that leap. But it was a pretty quick transition. Basically, I started TikTok in March of 2021 and I quit in June of 2021.
Wow.
3 months later. Yeah.
The power of social media and the power of when you have like valuable information for the right group and the right audience.
And community.
Yes, our community was thirsty for this.
Yeah. But
like,
also the community that encouraged me to explore this.
Yes. Yeah. I think if, I've been asked, like, if you could go back and just change like one thing from when you were just getting started, what would it be? And I would say community sooner, right? Because like for people, like I think community is just so beautiful. They remind you of who you are when you've forgotten. Like they remind you of your power when you have forgotten your own power. And I like, this is a perfect example, your story right now.
Thank you. You're so sweet. Thank you.
So you have a really juicy endorsement for your book. Tell us who it is.
I know. And it's finally public knowledge today. I've been holding this in my back pocket for a long time, but I had to wait for the right time, which is today, publishing day, to share. I'm proud to share that my book, it's actually been endorsed by a lot of wonderful women that I admire and respect, but with the main one being the amazing Eva Longoria.
The Eva Longoria.
Thank you, Bo. Yeah.
Damn.
Especially, I know. And a lot of people respect Eva because she's a big player in our community. I mean, I have adored this woman. I first started liking her when she was Gabrielle Solis in Desperate Housewives. I don't know if you watched it back in the day. I watched every single episode. And then I really fell in love with her when I saw that she went back to college. She went to get her master's to do Chicano studies. I don't know if you know that about her. And at this point, she was already an A-list celebrity. This was after Desperate Housewives. So the fact that she went back to school to do Chicano studies because she knew she wanted to be an advocate for the community, I'm like, this woman is amazing. Like she didn't have to do that. She could have just kept rubbing elbows with like the rich and elite and and turned her back on us. But she really wanted to educate herself on our issues to be able to really make an impact in the community. So yeah, I've adored this woman for 15 years. And the fact that she endorsed my book, that she knows I exist, it's just, I can't believe it. I can't believe this is my life.
Tell us about the moment when you learned, because I remember you and I talked about this and you're like, I'm trying to get it like to happen. And whenever I like saw your email and it was confirmed, I was like jumping for you. How did you react the moment that you found out?
You know what? I'm gonna keep it real, okay? You would think that I'd be jumping up and down with the endorsement, but there's more to this. So I have actually gotten a personal video, like a 1.5 minute long video from Eva herself. She DM'd me a video. I don't know if you ever saw it. I have to share the story because it's a whole story time. I haven't had time to share it. But she sent me a video that was like, hi, Gigi, thanks for being a supporter. And she gave me advice. Like she is a personalized video for me. So that was like when I was jumping up and down. And Eva Longoria DM me a video. What the hell is this? What is life? What is going on? Yeah. So that was that moment when I found out that I got the endorsement. It felt different. And of course I was happy. Of course I was grateful. But the reason it felt different is because to get the endorsement, I wasn't working with Eva directly herself. Of course not. She has a whole team. So I was basically dealing with Eva HR services, Eva corporate, which their team is wonderful. And I'm so thankful that they helped me get through to her. But there was a lot of vetting because, she's a A-list celebrity. She's not going to lend her name to anybody. So there was a lot of red tape and vetting, as there should be. But again, it wasn't as exciting as like directly hearing from her
Yeah.
and getting a video. So yeah, so again, it was a little anticlimactic, but still super, super thankful and grateful. And I understand why the vetting has to happen. I'm a businesswoman too.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that, because sometimes, like, from the outside looking in, like, people are probably just like, oh my gosh, like, she's so lucky. But you're sharing like the realness that comes from like that experience of dealing with an A-list celebrity who, like, we respect and love, and we totally understand from being business owners why this is happening. But you're
Of
sharing like the
course.
human experience as well of what actually
Yeah.
happens there.
Yeah. No, and she obviously, if she could do it, she would, because she's a sweetheart and she sent me a DM. But this woman is booked and busy more than you and I
I
combined, you
know.
know. So she has her team handle her stuff, you know. But they were fantastic to work with. But yeah, it was just a different experience than a personalized video.
Yeah, totally.
It's kind of hard to top a personalized video from your idol, you know.
Yes, yes. Okay, well, I want to like tell people where to get your book, how they can connect with you, but you mentioned something earlier that I wanted to come back to. I think it was like the second question.
Sure.
You said a term that I hadn't heard before, which is crazy because now I'm like, have I heard it? But you said financial anxiety.
Yeah.
And like, is
Yeah.
this something that you talk about in the book, or just something that you've experienced, or something that you've seen within the Latina community? Because I think that there's like overall anxiety, right? Like both of us, I think being business owners, I really believe that being a business owner
And
is
high
like the biggest
achievers.
healing journey you could go on. Cause like depression, anxiety, like all the mental health stuff's going to come up. But you specifically talked about financial anxiety. And I think our community struggles with it so much. So can you tell us a little bit more about what that is?
Mhm. Yeah, so I do bring it up, I think 3 times throughout the book. I am not an expert in this, because the people that are expert in this are people that are financial therapists that are licensed to talk about this.
I
So
didn't even know
I
that
very
was a
much
job.
Yes, girl. Yeah, there's very
Wow.
few of them, but they
Okay.
exist. Yeah, so they're trained in helping people heal through their money trauma. So
Wow.
again, if you've been unhoused, if you've experienced food scarcity, if your parents were laid off and that was like a very traumatic time in your childhood, like that
Wow.
creates money wounds, and
Yeah.
that affects how you interact with money as an adult. We form our relationship to money as early as the age of 7. Can you believe that? Yeah. So that's why it's so important to examine, what did I see growing up? Because what may have seemed normal to you, it may not be normal, right? After you kind of uncover that in therapy or in community with others. So yeah, I've experienced financial anxiety myself, not so much as a child, because fortunately we never, even though we didn't have a lot of money, we never went without food, thank God, nothing like that. But as an adult in my 20s, when I was trapped in these bad situations with the bad roommates, that's where I had the financial anxiety, because I would look at my bank account and I had $300 and I'm like, this isn't enough to move out. I'm stuck here,
Mhm.
and it would give me a lot of anxiety in my chest.
Yeah.
It affected my sleeping, my mental health. I started getting hives, all that, those fun symptoms of anxiety. So yeah, it's very common, unfortunately. So I do sprinkle it throughout the book where I say, hey, this is how it manifests. If this resonates with you, please seek the support of a mental health therapist
Yeah.
who can help you heal your relationship with your money.
Wow. Okay, thank you for sharing that. I didn't realize that
Mm-hmm.
we form our relationship with money as early as 7 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Wow.
that's a fact. Mm-hmm.
You just like blew my mind. Okay, I'm so glad I asked that.
I
Okay.
know. That's why it's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it's important to examine your relationship from an early age of what
Yes.
you remember. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
and
you can have the best education, financial education in the world,
mhm.
but if you still have that like hurt child,
Yeah.
and I know it personally, girl, I'll tell you, my husband, my husband had the best, hello, me, the best financial educator that he could have,
Yeah.
because he didn't know no money. So I taught it to him. I taught him everything that I know, and he learned, but he still wasn't able to execute. And we found out through therapy it was because his parents used to fight a lot about money when he was a little kid.
Wow.
So all he remembers is like being scared of them fighting. My husband is very introverted, so that really affected him deeply. These
Mhm.
these fights, these adults that were fighting in front of him about
Yeah.
money. So that's why he's always avoided it. And even though he had good knowledge from me, he still wasn't able to execute and move forward with his finances until he uncovered that in therapy.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So important. Okay, where can
Yeah.
people buy your book?
You're so sweet. You can buy my book at all major online book retailers, or it's easier if you just visit my website, culturaandcash.com, because I have linked Amazon, bookshop.org, Barnes and Noble. Those links are all there. So just go to culturaandcash.com. You can also request it from your local library and they will order it for you, or request it from your local bookstore.
Amazing. And we will have the link to your book website down below. You also have something free for the audience. Can you tell us what that is? And we'll also be sure to link that down below in the show notes.
Yeah. So it's a free guide, and it's actually very nice, like complimentary to the book. It's a 10-step guide about how to talk to your parents about their retirement, drama free y con cariño. And the reason that I create this resource is because I know that that's very much a struggle for our community, that a lot of us feel like our parents' retirement plan, or that we feel that we have to provide some sort of financial support in some
Yeah.
way. And again, there can be a lot of anxiety about what's expected of me.
Mhm.
Am I going to have enough money? Are my parents going to have to work till they're 90? Right. So
Yes.
it's a guide that gives you some structure so that you can start having these discussions in a productive way, instead of being told, no se habla de dinero, or right now it's not the right time.
Yeah.
So I kind of give you guidance on how to face those objections and slowly make progress towards making sure that they have a stable financial future when they're older, when it matters the most, really. They
Yeah.
work so hard and you want them to live well and not be, panicking about money at that age.
Yes. Yes. And where can people connect with you on social media?
So if I'm actually really active on TikTok, Instagram, and LinkedIn. All my socials are linked on my website, as well as a free guide that I just mentioned. And my website is thefirstgenmentor.com.
Amazing. So I want to invite everybody listening, if you took anything away from this podcast interview, take a screenshot, share it on Instagram, on LinkedIn, wherever it is that you spend time, and go get Gigi's book. And also take a photo of it and share it with your community. And if you download the free guide, tell us how send Gigi a message, screenshot it, put it in your story so that other people can have access to it as well, y'all, because when we help other people in our community also have access to this, like, you're also helping to change their lives. Gigi, thank you so much. I'm sorry it took us so long to get you on the podcast, but I really feel like this was like divine timing. What a
I know.
perfect day to have
I
you on.
know.
Happy launch day.
I know. Thank you so
Congratulations.
much.
I cannot wait to see you in person, and just like thank
I
you
know.
from the bottom of my heart and from our entire community for this labor of love, because you are changing so many
Yeah.
lives.
Thank you so much. It was really hard through several parts of the writing process because I had health issues. I had a hysterectomy halfway through the writing process, and I had a very bad anxiety this summer. So there were a lot of times that I did feel like giving up.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like, oh, I already know this information. Like, why do I have to write a book on this? But thank God I had invested in a book coach that kept me accountable and helped me kind of get back on the horse and reminded me of why I wanted to accomplish this goal, to make an impact in others' lives. So the same to you. I want to give you your flowers because you empower people to do the same as a coach, to make the positive changes that there's so many people that are stuck,
Yeah.
right? They're stuck, and then they see you thriving, you're beautiful, living your dream life. And that's so inspiring to us. And we need to see more Ericas, doing the thing so that we can be it. So I'm very thankful for our friendship and for all that you've accomplished as well, Miss New York Times.
That was thanks to you.
No, that was all you.
Back
That
over
was
there
all you.
somewhere. Yeah, that was.
I love
Yeah,
it.
but you made that intro, and you always are always looking out for people in your community, and that's like what I love about you so much. Obviously, your whole page is all about, helping empower the community through finances, but you don't just do that. Like, me being your friend, you have connected me with so many amazing women and spoken so highly of me in rooms that I'm not in. And like, I want everybody listening, like, if your friends are not rooting for you, like, you need new friends.
Mm-hmm.
You really do, because people
Mm-hmm.
like Gigi exist, people like me exist, and there's nothing more beautiful than having an aligned community around you. Because like, even just what Gigi mentioned, right? With like, she was about to quit TikTok to stay at her job, and like, we would not be here right now if it
Yep.
wasn't for her
Yep.
community. Yes.
Yep. Yeah. And I would not have finished my book if I hadn't invested in a book
Yeah.
coach that cared about me and my mission. So yeah, it's important to draw on community, hire support when you need it, because sometimes we can get stuck. That's just a part of being human, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. Gigi, I cannot wait to hug you in person the next time I see you.
Same,
I
friend.
love you so much,
Same.
and I'm sending you a
Me
virtual hug.
too.
And we will definitely have to bring you back on the podcast to talk about your book writing process, because I know a lot of people want to write books. So we'll be in touch for that.
I'm so happy to share. I've learned so much about the publishing industry, and I want to make this information accessible the same way that I make financial education accessible, because the publishing world is so freaking archaic,
Yeah.
so whitewashed, and I want Latinas to have an easier time navigating the publishing industry than I did. So yes, I would love to come back on and share all my insights on publishing and the book writing process for sure.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Erika.
Thank you so much for joining me this week. Make sure to visit theerikacruz.com. That's Erika with a K, where you can subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode. You can help this podcast grow by supporting me with an Apple Podcast rate and review. If you took anything away from this episode, I invite you to take a screenshot and share it on social media so that your favorite badass Latinas can also check it out. Be sure to tag me at the Erika Cruz. That's Erika with a K, because you know I want to see it. If you're ready to join the revolution and be a part of the Courage Driven Latina community, visit couragedrivenlatina.com to get more information and join the waitlist. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.